7 spells is all it takes. I wake up alone again, justice on my mind. Dreams of firelight.
Hello, and welcome to A Life with Culture. I'm St. John Flynn. As you might expect, the Decameron Opera Coalition takes its name from Boccaccio's 14th century masterpiece. 100 stories told over 10 days by 10 people, holed up in a villa outside Florence to escape the Black Death. The coalition, which includes 9 independent opera companies from across the US, has created Tales from a Safe Distance, 9 world premiere one-act operas, each based on a different story from the Decameron. Tales from a Safe Distance streams each Friday in October and is available for on-demand viewing through the end of the year. Houston's Opera in the Heights is one of the 9 coalition companies, and its artistic director, Eiki Isomura, joins me now. Welcome, Eiki. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, St.
Tell us about Opera in the Heights' collaboration with this project, the Decameron Opera Coalition. What is that?
The Decameron Opera Coalition is 9 U.S. companies that have come together to produce basically a short film opera series. It's led by the artistic general director of Resonance Works Pittsburgh, Maria Sensi-Sellner, and a writing team, composer and librettist Peter Hilliard and Matt Barresi. Together, they came up with the idea to adapt Boccaccio's Decameron, a collection of 100 stories, and it does have to do with an assembly of friends who are all entertaining each other by telling stories. And so we came together with the idea to have someone representing each company on a Zoom call like we're on, and saying, hey, great to see you, tell me what's going on. And they trade stories, and each person says, all right, well, I'll go. And then we're transported to whatever world one of the companies has come up with, that has been that is an adaptation of an existing Decameron story, or loosely inspired by. And so there are 9 such chapters. They're grouped into 2s and 3s, and so we have 4 episodes. They have been premiering each Friday in the month of October, and our last and 4th episode premieres on Friday.
And then they'll be available for on-demand viewing through the end of the year. That's correct.
Thank you. Yes. We wanted as many eyeballs on this as possible, and so we tried to keep the entry fee as low as we could, while still putting value on it. And so just a $15 ticket will get you an access code that you can use as many times as you want to stream on demand on whatever surface between now and the end of the calendar year. So yeah, you get a lot of mileage out of it. Again, it's 9 chapters. You get to see the work of 9 different writing teams, 10 if you include Peter and Matt, who have created what they call the interstitials, the Zoom conversations. It's like a happy hour amongst all these opera characters who say, well, let me tell you about a story of revenge, and then they go into the next chapter, and it's brilliant. The Houston Press called it kind of Sondheim-esque, the happy hours that take place in between each chapters, and I absolutely agree. Similar sound world, very clever text, and I was really delighted to see how that came together.
And those framing elements include Luca Pisaroni.
That's right. Yeah, we had this idea that, okay, we'll have someone representing each of the 9 companies, but who is the person who is hosting the Zoom call? Every Zoom call has a host, and we thought, well, wouldn't it be great if there was this conceit that there was this charismatic person that all these people met at a crazy night in Florence, and they're all reuniting and say, "Hey, great to see you. Let's have a drink and trade stories." And so we had this. We were, I guess, bold enough to reach out to Luca to see, hey, would you be our charismatic Florentine Dino who gets all these people together and gets the conversation going. And so he's our Zoom host, so each episode you get to hear him interacting, see and hear him interacting with the member companies.
So Seven Spells is Opera in the Heights' contribution, and it's based on a story, I think, from day 8 of the Decameron.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about this Seven Spells. Doña Girard is the composer
So
and the
Doña
librettist.
wrote her own libretto. She also chose the source story. So the genesis of Seven Spells is that Matt and Peter, the lead writing team, they create the frame, but they leave it to each member company to commission their own writing team for their chapter, which is anywhere between 7 and 10 minutes long. And so this was in a way a total clean slate, although there is this one requirement. The assignment is to base your story off of something from the Decameron. And it's film opera. It's something that I've never been involved with, and it was very intimidating. And I hadn't read the Decameron either. And so, but I knew that Doña, whom I know from grad school, that she had recently won a Discovery Grant with Opera America for having done a documentary opera. And I knew that she would know how to do this. And so I reached out to her and I said, so there's this thing called the Decameron. And she says, oh, I know the Decameron. I've read a bunch of it. And maybe she hasn't read all 100 stories of it, but she was intrigued enough to really dig deep into the Decameron to find a story that would really work well to be modernized to the present day, which I neglected to mention is part of the assignment, is to bring it somehow to take place in the present day. And so she found this revenge story between a very beautiful woman named Elena and this scholar named Ranieri. I don't know if we have time to get into the source story, but basically Elena humiliates Ranieri, leaves him out to freeze in a courtyard, and Ranieri wants to get back at her. He gets her his opportunity when Elena wants to win back her former lover. He says, if you do all these things, I'll magically bring your ex-lover back to you. And then he somehow leads her up to a tower, removes the ladder to hang her out to dry, and suffer from sunburns and bug bites. And it's this rather gruesome story that Doña thought to adapt to basically turn the story on its head and tell the story of a present day female celebrity who is stranded on a metaphorical tower of this pedestal that we tend to put women on, where we praise them for being beautiful, but we also shame them for being beautiful. And it's a beautiful commentary, and it works really well as sort of a continuous, I guess you could say, aria. There isn't very much narrative that feels like anything leading up to an aria. We just plunge you right into it. We never see the other character, and the film is made to have a lot of close-ups and be sort of to reveal a lot about the sort of the internal anguish of Elena over the course of what is a 7-minute aria. And yeah, it features Karen Cecilia Phelps, who is one of our resident artists.
And she's a
And
mezzo.
she's a mezzo. Yeah,
Mhm.
she's an alumna of the University of Houston Moore School, and she has joined us this season to be sort of featured artist throughout the season.
Mhm.
Later this season, she has some roles to play in our live productions, and the Seven Spells also has piano in it, and the piano is performed by Laura Bleakley, who is our other resident artist. So she was with us last season as well, and
Mhm.
she's with us an extended season. And yeah, and then Doña Gerard herself overlaid a bunch of electronics on top after the acoustic recording was done. And so yeah, it feels very contemporary. I guess you could say sort of electro pop kind of sound world. I know
Uh-huh.
that Doña herself is influenced by Bjork and
Mhm.
FK Twigs, and she was I think trying to channel some of that in some of the direction she gave us in helping us to come up with a visual concept for it too, where she actually sent us a whole playlist of music videos of such artists, uh, from the 90s all the way to the present day, for us to and she called it a mood board, and we Abbas Padilla and I we looked at that and took that as our sort of starting point to brainstorm how we could build some narrative around what might otherwise be a more abstract aria.
And Abbas is the filmmaker.
Yeah, Abbas is someone who does a great deal of TV and commercial video recording, and of course film work. This is his first time working with opera, and this
Mhm.
was my first time working with film, and so we worked closely together to figure out how to tell the story visually, and Donia was a big part of that. Karen as well, and her how she interpreted the text, and um, we also had with us Lisa Longoria as our makeup, costume, all in all stylist in one person, with Performing Arts Supply providing the costumes. And it really was this great team effort where we drew inspiration from one another. We drew inspiration from the location as well. We shot on location at Sarah's Inn. Do you know where that is? It's on 9th Street and Heights Boulevard. It's this beautiful bed and breakfast.
In
Um,
Houston.
yeah, in Houston, in
Mhm.
Houston Heights. And there's it's very much Victorian interior, and Lisa, our stylist, took a lot of inspiration from the architecture of the inn, and we used a number of rooms in that inn, and a courtyard, which we sort of adapted as our tower where she's stranded. Just a beautiful place, and I was glad to be able to shoot on location in Houston. Like I don't know how a small company like ours can compete with very large companies and major cities that have large budgets to work with, other than to infuse it with local flavor. And
Right.
so being able to shoot on location at Sarah's Inn with our two resident artists, with a Houston filmmaker, I think got us some of the way there.
One of the things about the coalition, and all the companies that have contributed to Tales from a Safe Distance is that these are smaller companies, but
Mhm.
there's also a great diversity among them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. we represent various parts of the country. We are, like you said, smaller companies with smaller budgets, and we all have our own um, mission that serves the art form and our communities in one way or another. There's, for example, a company called AOT, An Opera Theater, AN Opera Theater in Minneapolis, and their work always focuses on social justice issues. And
Mhm.
so one of their episodes, well, their episode for Decameron Opera Coalition premiered alongside Seven Spells, that dealt with domestic violence that has seen a spike during the pandemic lockdown, and so that's been inspiring to be around and to learn from them. You know, Opera in the Heights, as you know, is a company that has a really strong emphasis on showcasing emerging artists, offering role debuts, company debuts, and such. And some of the other companies have that emphasis too. And so we know a lot of the same people. Um, in terms of diversity, I am really proud to see the artist roster represented across the many companies. If you go to DecameronOperaCoalition.org,
Mhm.
you can see descriptions of all 9 chapters, and then you can see the artist rosters. They're broken down by production, and also at the bottom you can see just everyone who's involved. And
Right.
yeah, it's I think all of us partner companies recognize that the art form has a lot of work to do, and we all came together, of course, in the wake of this national awakening of racial inequity, and we are all, I think, in our humble way, trying to be part of progress and solutions. And each of us has it has taken different forms, but I think we all do have representation on our mind.
Obviously, this is a response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And if there's anything good uh, that has come out of the pandemic, it's perhaps that so many performing arts organizations are rethinking what they do and how they do it. And it seems to me that this is a wonderful way for um, opera to very much remain relevant.
I think so. A lot of companies began digital productions, I think, as a solution to a health problem. We were all striving to find ways to make our art in as safe a manner as possible, and working
Mhm.
remotely and working on a digital platform where we are not sharing the same breathing space is certainly um, you know a, a very safe way of doing it. But I think we all figured out um, that those restrictions that have been placed on us can be leveraged to be our creative advantage. Decameron Opera Coalition brings together uh, companies from long far distances away, and to be inspired by one another, to compare notes, um, to also produce and work remotely in very different ways, all which we would never have considered doing if
Right.
we lived in a world where it was safe to make in-person opera, just like it had been. And
Mhm.
so yeah, I love watching how this disruption has inspired new ways of producing.
Do you think that the Decameron Opera Coalition will do anything else beyond this project?
That's something that we have continuous discussions about. right now we're all still figuring out how this works. We're very proud of our final product, and we have had a blast putting it together. And we once all the episodes have premiered, I think we will all have sort of a collective sigh of relief, and then a debriefing session about what was great about it, what we can improve upon. um, there are some who have voiced very explicitly that this is something that they want to be part of their regular practice moving on. I for one, am someone who is very excited to get back to in-person opera, but I know that sort of film-based opera productions on some small scale will likely continue to be what we do.
Mhm.
It has sort of changed my perspective on the possibilities of the art form. And then there are those who I think are waiting to evaluate that, and then at least one other company says, well, there are 100 stories in the Decameron, and we've only tackled 9 of them. So yeah, I'm excited about the connections that have been forged through this process. I definitely have become fans of all of our partner companies, and will be following the work closely. So even if it doesn't continue in this hyper robust form where we have 9 companies like on one Zoom call, trading stories, we've built a lot of bridges to make further co-productions possible.
Mhm.
And I know that most companies like ours are interested in those opportunities. We just haven't always known how to do it, and now we do know.
And so, in some respects, the pandemic is sort of strengthening independent opera companies across the US.
I think so. One thing about this pandemic is that it has brought about devastating economic impacts that we still don't know the depths of, and it's a scary time to be running a company because opera is um, a very expensive art form that depends on charitable contributions, and who knows how stable those can be during such hard economic times. And so being able to do the Decameron Opera Coalition in such a way that each company is producing a small part of a large, I don't know, this large production that we could never have dreamed of on our own, has allowed us to um, kind of dip our toe into something that feels a little scary. Because digital opera, it remains to be seen how well, how much, I guess, public interest there is in it, how well it can be monetized. So far the reception has been great. But I think for companies who have been considering it, there's always been this internal calculation going on, is will we lose a lot of money trying to do this?
Right.
And being able to do something that has enough content to maintain the interest of our audience for 4 weeks, while only, at least for us, producing a 7-minute film. Our Karin has been participating in all of the interstitial material, and that I know has taken a lot of work. But nonetheless, it's been a manageable size of content for a great deal of artistic yield. So that's been such a gift.
And of course, the Metropolitan Opera's live in HD broadcasts performances have been very popular.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
this is something that maybe can go forward in that same spirit.
I think so. And we back to back to that question of how smaller companies can compete with the Met that is producing digital content at the highest level. It drives creativity. It at least for Opera in the Heights, it has made me think about how can we produce digital content that feels distinctly of this company. How can someone look at that and feel like, oh yeah, that's Opera in the Heights, and I don't necessarily know that will be the takeaway, but it was made with that intention.
Mhm.
The Heights is a company that takes pride in bringing the audience really up close to the action, and so the videography was designed with that in mind, and it was shot in Houston with Houston artists, with with the intention of producing something that could only have come from us. And so I think if small companies keep thinking in that vein, there will always be a competitive advantage for the smaller companies.
Well, congratulations on Tales from a Safe Distance. And it's wonderful to see Opera in the Heights staying relevant and continuing to function during this awful time. And I should say that the place to go is Decameron Opera Coalition.org for people that want to subscribe to the on-demand service. Eiki Isomura, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sinjin.
I'm Sinjin Flynn. This is A Life with Culture. Thank you very much for joining us.
7 spells is all it takes. I wake up alone.